Councilmember Looney, can you attest that we have a quorum present?
Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you, sir. And is Greg Webbs in the audience?
No.
Okay. Mr. Radford, would you do an invocation for us?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather tonight on behalf of our community, we ask that you join us in our celebrations and our needs. We know that you are the provider and the one we look to. We ask that you bless us and follow us each and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And Councilmember Ansley, will you lead us in our pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we got almost a full house, and we'll thank you all for being here. And we will get started with our meeting. Council, you have in front of you our agenda. I will entertain a motion that this time that we adopt the agenda as presented with the amendment of removing COVID policy from the consent agenda.
Make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented, removing the COVID policy.
Have a motion? Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by council on this? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. The motion carried unanimously. Council, you also have in front of you the approved minutes from our May 22nd, 2022 work session. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Any discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carried. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to announce that we're going to have a swearing-in ceremony of our new Assistant Police Chief, Mike Davis. And I'm going to ask our Police Chief, Matt Dawkins, if we will bring Mr. Davis forward for this ceremony. Mr. Davis, thank you for joining the city of Jasper.
Coming right up.
And then we're going to let Mr. Dawkins read to you our swearing-in ceremony.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I,
Mike Davis,
do swear and affirm
do swear and affirm
that I will well and truly
that I will well and truly
perform the duties of Assistant Police Chief of the City of Jasper
perform the duties of the Assistant Police Chief of the City of Jasper
to the best of my abilities
to the best of my abilities
and take only my lawful compensation.
and will take only my lawful compensation.
I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
the duties of Assistant Police Chief
the duties of the Assistant Police Chief
of this city,
of this city,
and that I will support and defend
and that I will support and defend
the charter thereof,
the charter thereof,
as well as
as well as
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the state of Georgia
and the laws of the state of Georgia and of the United States.
I am not the holder of any unaccounted
I am not the holder of any unaccounted
for public money
for public money
due to this state
due to this state
or any political subdivision
nor any political subdivision
or authority thereof.
or authority thereof.
I am not the holder of any office
I'm not the holder of any office
of trust under the government
of trust under the government
of the United States,
of the United States,
any other state,
and any other state,
or any foreign state,
or any foreign state,
which I,
which I,
by the laws of the state of Georgia,
by the laws of the state of Georgia,
am prohibited from holding.
am prohibited from holding.
I am otherwise qualified
I am otherwise qualified
to hold said office
to hold said office
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of Georgia.
and the laws of Georgia.
I will perform these duties
I will perform these duties
of my office
with my office
in the best interest
in the best interest
of the city of Jasper,
of the city of Jasper,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
without fear,
without fear,
favor,
favor,
affection,
affection,
reward,
reward,
or expectation thereof.
or expectation thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So, I want to introduce you to the council. Council, this is Mike Davis. He's 21 years of law enforcement. He's coming to us from Georgia Public Safety Center right now, 5 years there. He's also worked Fannin County, East LJ, those two places. So he has well knowledge of small town, very versed in training. As y'all know how I feel about training, so this is a great part of what we're going to go for. It's a great addition to the city of Jasper.
Welcome to Jasper.
Welcome, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, occasionally we are presented with an opportunity to recognize one of our employees, and we're always indeed happy to do so. So at this time, I'd like to ask Greg Buchanan to come forward and also be accompanied by Lisa Austin from Chattahoochee Tech. And Greg, so good to have you with us this evening. Lisa, thank you.
Thank
I'm going to ask Stacy Johnson if you will come forward. Stacy is has been helping facilitate this, so I would ask her to explain this to everyone.
The city of Jasper has an open forum with Chat Tech to provide any kind of GED program at no cost to the employees if they so will to participate in it, whether it be actually in class or privately learn on what they call Blackboard. And this is Greg's teacher, Miss Lisa, and I'm gonna let her take it from here.
Thank you. I am gonna cry first. I am so honored to be here. This young man, Mondays and Wednesday evening classes from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock after he's worked a whole entire day, and every single Monday and Wednesday, unless he was over there taking a GED test, I would look out and there would sit Greg, ready to go, ready to learn. Wish I could Xerox him. And then every single one of my students would be as successful as Greg. He's so motivated. I knew, didn't I tell you? When he came in, didn't think he was going to be able to do it. I told him, you will get your GED. I saw his work ethic. He did everything he was told to do. He worked in class, worked out of class. Most importantly, he was there every single day. And so, not only did you get your GED certificate, you get your certificate of completion to Gregory Buchanan for demonstrating attainment of academic proficiencies required for successful completion of adult secondary education, high school equivalency, given at the Appalachian campus on May 25th, 2022.
Greg, on behalf of the city, we would like to offer you a sentiment of our gratitude for you completing this well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Ms.
it.
Austin.
Thank you for having me.
Council, you have in front of you the consent agenda, which has the COVID policy removed, so at this point I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in this revision.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And the consent agenda is approved. Old business. Consideration and approval of alcohol license for Mountain City Outdoors, and we'll ask our city manager, Sonia Janice, to bring this to us.
So this has been brought before City Council before, and we have given you a little more insight in the what the request is as far as the dual business purpose of being an outdoor store and selling beer on the premises. And I do believe if you have any specific questions that the applicant is here to answer any specifics regarding their business model. But if you do not have any questions, then I just would like for you to consider approval of this.
Council, I entertain a motion to approve or disapprove of this particular license.
Motion to approve as presented.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council?
Mayor and council, if I may, looking at what's been presented in our ordinances on the books, legal opinion on if this meets the alcohol requirements for our wine specialty shop that was passed.
I'm not so sure that it fits a wine specialty shop. I mean, if y'all want to allow this business to sell alcohol, I think we can do it. I think we'll have to amend the ordinance to provide for that. So I think tonight, all y'all could do, if you're interested in allowing this type of business to sell alcohol, is just to authorize the city manager and myself to come up with an amendment to the alcohol ordinance to allow them to have alcohol sales in accordance with their business plan.
And their intent is not to sell any food, correct?
Prepackaged,
Prepackaged.
Like the wine tasting.
just like the wine tasting.
Council, at this point, Kurt, did you want to amend your motion and Jim your second to include authorization for our city manager to get with our city attorney and decide what type of information would need to be given back to council for full approval?
The wine specialty ordinance, wine shop ordinance that was passed, based on what's presented, I think it's a fluid discussion we could have. I think there's simply, the application process and presentation process was misrepresented to an extent where the information wasn't absorbed correctly. My motion is based on the wine specialty shop ordinance, even given the legal explanation.
Any further discussion by council?
Well, I am feeling some concern from our attorney, and I would suggest we pass it to David and Sonia for discussion and bring back more information. I want to feel comfortable that we're not making a mistake here. So I don't have a bit of problem with pulling my second and making a motion to allow city manager and city attorney to research this and come back with suggestions and concerns.
How about a table? I'm not
I'm just having some discussion. How about a tabling with a definitive end on a result rather than continuing to kick the can down the road, with all due respect?
Because I think we've had that discussion before.
We've been talking about this for a while, and David has basically indicated he feels like we can come up with an ordinance that would meet the criteria. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to pass the application based on that, but that's what I would.
I think we have to be careful with, also with the other people that are paying the fees and providing food and the way we have it written in our ordinance at this time. So that's my concern.
And I will say, you know, once you kind of open the door, my experience has been that everybody suddenly will say, hey, we're a wine specialty shop, and you know, we want a license for that, and your food sale requirement, you know, would kind of go out the window.
Yeah.
So I think we got to give it a little thought.
Yeah, that's my concern is the food alcohol ratio we have now. That will not be able to be met with what they have.
As it stands, council, any further questions by anyone else? I have a motion, and Jim, have you withdrawn your second?
Yes, I withdrew my second.
So I have a motion, and do I hear a second? Absent that, I would entertain a motion to table until our next business meeting.
So,
Have a motion to table until our next business meeting.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We'll work a little harder. Under new business, audit presentation from the Rushton Company. We'll ask Sam Latimer to bring this to us. Sam?
Thank you very much.
Good to see you here.
It's good to be here. I appreciate you having me again. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and serve as your auditor. As you know, we come in an audit team, and we come and test transactions, and we ask a lot of your staff, and I just want you to know that they did a fantastic job. Anything we asked for, they were able to provide it. You've got new leadership in the finance department. We're very excited about that, and we're excited about next year as well. So, I've got, you've got 3 documents in front of you. Your bound report and a presentation. I'm going to go through the presentation, but feel free to stop me as I go along and ask any questions if you need to. So beginning, I would like to start on page 2 of the presentation. This is the audit report. And so we did issue an unmodified opinion based on the financials. And, you know, of course, it's your responsibility to have the financials in good shape, and it's our responsibility to issue an opinion on those. I would like to direct you, I don't usually do this, but I would like to direct you to page 2 of the report, excuse me, page 1 of the report. This year is the first year of a significant change in the audit report. So I'll give you a quick lesson on the AICPA has changed the way the audit report looks. I won't bore you and read every detail here, but I just go through some of the highlights. If you look at the report there, this audit report, it contains pretty much the same information. There's some new clauses in there, but if the format has changed in that the opinion is first. It used to be buried down in the 4th paragraph. So now you can see that we've audited the financial statements and issued our opinion. That's the very first paragraph. And then it goes through some of our responsibilities and some of your responsibilities. And then on page 2, this is where some of the new information comes in. You can see it's now bullet pointed, and they're highlighting this information so that you know more about what this report, what we're doing as auditors. And so one of the new highlights is that it's harder to find error due to fraud, because fraud is hidden and it's meant to be not found. Whereas with accounting standards, it's easier to find that. So, but anyways, that's some of the new language there, and it talks about our professional judgment, skepticism, and that type of thing. So, just wanted to highlight that there. New exciting changes to the audit report letter. So, Any questions there? Okay, so then I'll start going through some of the changes, or the financials. As you know, the government report, your audit report, has two different standard bases of accounting. You've got full accrual, which is your government-wide statements, and that I'm on page 3 of the presentation here. That is your statement of net position, that's on page 15 and 16. But that is what you would call just like a balance sheet in a for-profit entity. Then you have your statement of activities, that's like a net income statement. And that combines everything that the city has together. So governmental and business type are all consolidated together in that statement. And so when you get down, if you look on slide 4, moving to slide 4 here, you can see the presentation, we've got 3 years there. Looking at this year, if you take total assets minus your liabilities, you end up with what we call net position. And so that would be like net equity in a for-profit. Looking through the columns here, you see net investment in capital assets. That's all your infrastructure, all your assets together, minus accumulated depreciation, net of debt. And the city has $21.4 million worth of infrastructure minus debt and depreciation. Looking at the next column there, you can see restricted net position. You've got almost $2 million of restricted net position. Of course, that's restricted for other things like SPLOS. SPLOS would be one of the major contributors there, or maybe a grant, that type of thing. But then you've got unrestricted net position, which is about $4.2 million. And so that's what's left over. That's what you have the discretion to spend. But looking at the revenue over expenditures there, you can see that there is a very big change compared to the prior year. If you take all revenue minus expenses, you end up with $2.6 million compared to $300,000 this year. A lot of that has to do with you took a hit on due to your net pension liability. There were some changes made to that, and so there were some additional expenses last year. That's just a one-time thing when you increase benefits on the net pension liability. You also had a massive increase in, a very significant increase, I should say, in all your taxes that you received throughout the year. Also, the first full year of SPLOS collections. Last year you collected about 6 months worth. You've now got a full 12 months in there. So that's some of the reasons that you have the large increase there. But this is a very easy report to present because all the numbers are up. So that is the full accrual basis. Now I can direct your attention to slide 5. That is the general fund. As you can see there was an increase in revenue of 12%, 11.9, but about $583,000. Property taxes up 22%, $250,000. Lost is up $256,000, 15, almost 16%. Franchise tax revenue is also up 19%. Your intergovernmental revenue is up 100%. That's the CARES Act money that you receive from the federal government. So most local governments receive that money. That was about $200,000. Building permits are also up. They're up 46%, $61,000. Fines and forfeitures are up. Of course they're up. Due to COVID in 2020, there were closures. So we expect that number to be up. Looking at expenditures, they're not up quite as much as your revenues. They're up about 4%. Financial administration is up due to capital outlay. Your new accounting software package is capital outlay that you have in that department there. The street department is down, decrease about 7% due to a decrease in personal services. And then your park and recreation decreased about $54,000. I believe you had a park capital outlay in the prior year, so that's the reason for that decrease this year. Looking at unassigned fund balance, of course, that's the fund balance that you can use at your discretion. You can see we like to do a percentage of expenditures. You have about 53% of expenditures, or about 6 months worth of reserves. So a healthy increase compared to the prior year. You had about 5 months worth last year. And quite a nice chart here. If you turn the page to page 6, huge increase in operating revenues there, very substantial. Of course, they're up $635,000. You see the difference between the blue line and the green line there. The green is your expenditure and the blue is your revenue. Very, very healthy increase. I would expect to see maybe some of that decrease next year, but who knows? This year seems to be going quite well for everybody as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking on page 7 of the presentation, this is your fund balance. You can see, as expected, that line is going up quite drastically, just as the revenue line was on the other page. Now we get into business type activities. You've got your water and sewage fund. Operating revenues are up 14%, 14.7, or $703,000. A very, very healthy increase. Water sales increased $713,000, or 25%. Lots of new developments went online this year, so you're starting to see some of the increases there. Sewer sales increased about 12%. Meter installation is increased about $120,000, or 59%. Sewer tie-ins is also up. That was due to some contributions. And then leachate decreased about $417,000, a 50% decrease there. But overall, like I said, a 15% increase in your revenues there. Operating expenditures decreased about 73%. Always good to see those going down with revenue going up. Decreased $73,000. There was an increase in your cost of sales. Sludge removal costs continue to be going up. They're up compared to the prior year. You also had an increase in repairs and maintenance, and then purchases of water this year that you did that went up. I believe that was from the county, and I can't remember the other entity, but I know there were 2 different entities that they were purchasing water from now. Personal services are down about $661,000. That has a lot to do with the net pension liability expenses that hit the books last year because of those changes in the benefits to your retirees. So that kind of went away. So that number is a bit misleading due to that net pension liability change or change in benefits. And that's it on the water fund. If you look on slide 9, you can see your revenues there. They're up about 15%, like I said. But you see the blue line, quite substantial increase over the 4.7 last year. Very, very healthy increase there. And then your operating revenue went from $189,000 to $967,000. So, like I said, a very easy report to present here because of the numbers being so well. And then we have a report on your internal control. That is our report. So we're required to go through some of your compliance with laws, grants, those type of things. And so we're having a report. We didn't find any material weaknesses or anything that we thought was reportable enough for it to be in our letter in the report. On page 85 and 86, there were a few small things, but that's in this letter here. I won't go into the details of those, but that was given to management. Those are things that we thought we'll check up on the next year. Not really worth putting in the report because they're not that substantial, but we'll follow up on those on our next audit. And then there's some requirements that I'm required to communicate to you, and that is that the auditors, we're required to provide a reasonable basis, not absolute assurance on our opinion. We come and we test transactions. We look at the accounting principles. We look at the reasonableness of the way those are applied. And we believe that the audit that we did achieved that. The notes to the accounting policies are outlined in note 1. We reviewed those in our audit, and there were no new accounting policies adopted this year. There are some accounting estimates that to be aware of because things can change due to estimates. Some of those, the most substantial would be your pension plan. Those actuarial numbers can change quite substantially. As you know, the stock market can take a dive, and that can affect those numbers as well as any estimates within those. You do have allowance for doubtful accounts and your depreciation. I don't think those are quite as substantial as your actuarial valuations, but nonetheless, still an estimate. Any corrected adjustments that we gave to finance, they agreed with, made those adjustments, and so we were able to not have any uncorrected adjustments. We had no disagreements with management during our procedures, no difficulties during the audit. Of course, your staff did a fantastic job getting us what we need, and we're able to actually come up here and be in and out 2, 3, 4 days, and so it went very well. You have accepted responsibility for these financials. You provided a letter to us saying that you are responsible for these financial statements, and we didn't consult any outside management consultants during our procedures. And like I mentioned, we didn't have any reportable instances in the report. Now, I would like to highlight, this is a big change coming up on slide 16. GASB 87, I think I've been telling you about this for 5, 6 years now. Well, it's finally coming. It'll be next year. It was coming, then COVID happened, they delayed it another year, and so I've been presenting on this at conferences and stuff for like the last 6, 7 years, so I think it's finally time to do it. So anyways, that is going to be quite a substantial change in your accounting for leases. Right now, you account for leases through capital and operating. Basically, a capital lease is you've essentially bought it, and so we treat it as if you have bought it in your financial statements. Substance over form is the term we use for that. Now, your operating leases, which traditionally would not be on your balance sheet, will now be moved to the balance sheet. You'll have a right to use asset and a liability for those. And so that will change it. It's also on the other side. So if you are the lessor, you will have a receivable for those amounts and then a deferred inflow, and you'll recognize lease revenue over the life of a lease. So that's a big change, and it's a big change for accountants because we've been doing capital versus operating for so long, and now that kind of goes away. So we have a single model at this point now. So excited to implement that. And that is really the end of my presentation. I hope I've covered everything. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have on the report, on the audit, any accounting standards that might interest you.
Council, questions for Sam? Sonia, if anybody's going to have questions, it would be you. So.
Well, I actually would just like for you to clarify for actually everyone in the room, sure. Pension liability and the process by which it's accounted for now. It's a new GASB statement just implemented in the past few years. And so I always ask my former auditors to make sure they clarified what that actually meant where in the bottom line. So.
That's correct. So those pension plans, it used to be only a disclosure, and you would have to book a liability in some extreme circumstances. But for the most part, it was a disclosure. In the case of the city of Jasper, it was a disclosure only. So now you actually recognize your net pension liability. So all the assets in the plan minus the liabilities in the plan and whatever's left over, that liability or asset now gets recognized in your financial statements. So that's in your government-wide financial. It's not in any of the governmental, but it's in the water. And one of the changes, this may be what started that question really is, when you make changes in benefits, some of those benefits have to be recognized immediately. And so I believe last year we were talking $1.5 million type. Of course, you're not going to pay that out, but that was something that had to go into operations at that time. This was in 2015, so we're about 7 years into GASB 67, or 68, I'm sorry. 67 are the plans, 68 are the cities and counties recognizing those. So curious to see how things work out when maybe things take a dive in the stock market and that type of thing. Now you do amortize things over the life of 5 years, and so it kind of smooths out some of that. One of my concerns was is now the balance sheet going to just go up and down with the stock market? And so there are measures in here, in that standard, that try to mitigate some of that. But nonetheless, it does increase the transparency of the city of Jasper with Pickens County or any other city in the country, really. And so every city and county are required to, or governmental entity are required to book their net pension liability now. And there's an increase in disclosure that's required with that as well. So I hope I didn't overkill that.
No,
I know
no,
that
no,
can get
no,
very,
it's perfect.
very technical. And that tends to be my not so strong suit, just to take it too technical.
Any further questions from council? Thank you, Sam.
Well, thank you very much. Again, you have a very bright future here with your finance department. We always enjoy our relationship with the city of Jasper.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thanks so much.
Item 2 under new business, consideration of approval of ARPA funding. And Sonia, will bring this, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of City Council. In 2021, the city received notification that they were entitled to $1,484,036 under the American Rescue Plan Act. We are considered a non-entitlement unit based on the city of Jasper. So the funding was set to be distributed in 2 tranches. The first tranche, in the amount of $742,018, was received on October the 1st. There was some communication amongst council about how to use this funding and what projects that council wanted to apply this funding towards. The main project that bubbled to the surface was the AMI project for the automated metering. Since we have been going through that process, we decided to go through, as you're well aware, a different direction in doing metering as a service, which allows us to take this intended ARPA money and redistribute it someplace else. And staff would request that City Council consider redistributing this funding towards our wastewater plant expansion to help cover some of the costs, the overages that those bids came in at, so that we can use the full amount, up to the full amount allowable for that particular project. And so that's what we're asking City Council to make a decision and approve that this evening.
Thank you, Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
Council, entertain a motion to approve.
So,
The designation of ARPA funding to be used towards the wastewater expansion plant project.
so,
And
Second.
motion. And a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same. And the motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Brought back to item 1. Do we need to have a vote on acceptance of the audit report, Sonia, for the state?
I would consider that appropriate. That's the way we did it where I came from, so I didn't know the.
I believe it has to be in before June 30th. I'd like to make a motion to accept the audit report so that it can be presented to the state.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council to accept the audit report? All in favor, please say aye.
And I would just like to make a recommendation that we really applaud Lindsay on this particular document. I mean, she really stepped up to the plate and really pulled off some amazing, she worked nights, she worked weekends, she did what it needed to take to get it done. She worked her birthday. So she really did an amazing job to get this audit out.
I should do something about that. I'm sure you are, yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good job.
Very good job.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Steve. But
It's all right, we got it.
I think we need to have that so it can be presented.
Item 3 is a little larger. Consideration of approval of tentative award of contracts for the USDA WPCP expansion and the sewer system improvements project. This will be our resolution number 2022-06.
So, staff, you have before you the bidders. Staff are recommending that we take Turnip Seed's recommendations on what bid to accept for the wastewater plant expansion, as well as the sewerage system improvement. And so I'm at this point going to turn it over to Kim and Lamar to actually make the official presentation of who those winners were on that process.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So included in your packet, you've got a thick section that has all of the certified bid tabulations, the project cost summary, the letter of recommendation from Turnip Seed on both portions of our USDA project. And so you'll recall it was bid out in two sections: the actual plant expansions themselves, and then the relocated outfall, which was the 16-inch force main that leaves the plant and goes to our new outfall on Long Swamp Creek. Unfortunately, the bids came back significantly higher than I think anyone was anticipating, but these are needed. It's a needed project. We must do this work. Turnip Seed has evaluated all of the bids. For the plant expansion itself, the low bidder, when you look at the base bid plus the additions that we want to have done, one of those is a sludge dewatering building that will go over our belt press that we built, or that we purchased in December. And then the other one is to replace the mechanical grit chamber. That all comes to $51,781.52. And the low bidder is Reeves Young out of Sugar Hill, Georgia. For the 16-inch force main, that is the portion we're calling the sewerage system improvements, the low bidder was Tim Stansel. That total is $3,197,632. Again, much higher than what we were anticipating. We believe we may be able to make some adjustments to that through looking at another route that we can go with the force main. So those are negotiations that we'll be entering in with him. We do need to go to USDA though and ask for additional funding. So when you look at what we had already procured through them, talking grant and loan, that amount was $7,725,000. We need a little over $11 million more to complete this project. Now that could go down. You have approved the ARPA money to be able to be used towards this project, which will also reduce some of the amount that we need to borrow. But we need to get that application in as soon as possible. Rates are planning on changing through USDA. They are currently 1.5% for interest. And as of July the 1st, they're anticipating that they're going to go up. And we don't know how much, but when you're talking about $11 million, any kind of percentage increase is going to be substantial. So Lindsay and Sonia and I have been working on the application. The mayor has certified the things that he needs to do on it. We are ready to apply tomorrow, as long as this resolution is signed. Now, what the resolution is actually saying is that it gives, it's a contingent approval. This still needs to go to USDA. They need to evaluate our request for funding. They also need to approve the contracts to Stanco and to Reeves Young. Does anyone have any technical questions that we can bring Lamar up for?
What you're asking for is to approve the application process.
Please approve the contracts. These are tentative awards based on USDA agreeing with our request, and then also their approval of additional funds.
Any questions?
So will the reapplication or the additional application process, Is it very similar to the original application as far as the amount of work required, or?
It is similar, because it's still the same project though, there are some things that we are not having to provide to them. It's carried over from the previous application. The lion's share of what we're having to do now is updating all of our financials, because obviously we're asking for additional money, so we need to relook at our operating budgets, take it out another year, because this is 2 to 2.5 years of construction. And then also take a look at kind of the development that's coming into the area and relook at number of connections, what we anticipate we're going to have in the future, all things so that USDA can evaluate that and decide whether or not they can give us that additional loan or not.
And how about the bonding process? Didn't we go through a bonding process for the original USDA loan? David, do you remember that?
Well, it's anticipated that we will issue revenue bonds, but we first get an interim loan that's based on USDA buying out the interim loan. And to buy out that interim loan, we would do a revenue bond. So we would do, at some point in time, a revenue bond issuance, but it's probably a year or more off at this point.
So I understand that. So we were very pleased with the original rate that we got, as well as the proportion of grant versus loan. Does that just kind of start over, or do they base their decision kind of on that original acceptance, or how is that?
So the rate is the same, as long as we can get everything in and they are able to process quickly before July the 1st. After that point, I don't know what the rate will be, but they have committed to working with us. As soon as we get our information in, they will process as quickly as possible. They have committed to doing that for us. Typically, any money that you would ask above what you have already received or what has been allocated for you is all loan. What USDA has said is that they will look at what additional amount, if any, could possibly be given as grant, because they know that this additional amount will be a burden.
Okay. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Any questions? Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve this tentative award of contracts for the USDA WPCP expansion and sewer system improvements project, our resolution number 2022-06.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is consideration of approval of Phase 1 of A&S Environmental Services proposal for $15,400. And we'll let Sonia and Kim bring this to us also.
Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, so the topic at Water and Wastewater Committee meetings is always what can the city be doing to look for additional water sources. And at the meeting on May the 17th, Lamar, Mr. Turnipseed were there, and we talked about various ideas for looking for water sources, and asked Lamar basically to look at bringing us a proposal for exploring additional groundwater sources, so municipal wells. Lamar has brought us a proposal. It was discussed at another Water and Wastewater Committee meeting on May the 27th. This proposal, which you have in your packets, is through A&S Environmental Services. Robert Atkins, who is a professional geologist, highly regarded in the state of Georgia, has proposed to evaluate, basically look at where our best shot is for exploring groundwater wells. And so the proposal, phase 1 of the proposal, which is $15,400, will allow him to start that work that he needs to do to see whether or not additional wells are a possibility for us.
Any further questions by council on this subject? Council, I entertain a motion for approval on Phase 1 of the A&S Environmental Services proposal as brought to us by the Water Committee?
So move.
Have a second.
Second.
Any further questions? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Excellent, thank you.
Carried unanimously. We're going to do well. Item number 5, consideration and approval for purchasing policy amendment. Ms. Lindsay Williams, if you would please, bring this to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You'll find in your packet in July 2020 that we adopted a purchasing policy. Well, as you all know, the cost of goods and services are going up, things like daily. So I have included in your packet some changes or amendments we would like to make to our purchasing policy to allow it a little more, when our department heads are trying to make purchases, it'll help them get through the process a little bit faster, instead of having to wait on things that they shouldn't have to, like chemicals. For David, his chemicals are expensive, so all the time having to get different approvals for them. And that's something that we need to function daily. So there are notes in there where the changes are. If you have any questions, we're glad to answer them. But we're just asking that you'll please approve these purchasing changes.
If I may make a comment. So when you're trying to be a high-performance organization, and you make a decision on something and you have to wait 30 days until council gets back together, it kind of ties up the process and makes you a little bit less high performing. So what we're trying to do is trying to move barriers out of the way to get things done quickly, especially in our evolving economy, when a price of something today may be extremely higher tomorrow. And so that we're just trying to allow staff a little more flexibility to move quicker through the purchasing process in regards to that. So.
Also, we have limitations, and sometimes we need something, and the supply might be out before we can get it ordered, so we're trying to eliminate that too.
Just to add, this was discussed at the administrative committee meeting, and the group found that all the changes to increase the spending limits necessary because of the current economic situation. That's the bottom line. Crazy things are happening, and we need to be able to react to them.
Council, I entertain a motion to approve the purchasing policy amendments and spending limits as presented.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in
So,
favor?
just verifying that we have, one of the great benefits of when we initiated the purchasing policy was that we had oversight of and checks and balances, and just verifying that those will be at least as stringent as required.
Yes, absolutely, they will.
Thank you, Sonia.
And if there is something that comes across, a request that comes across that I think that council needs to be read in on or needs to vet, it definitely will come to you.
Okay.
These are more operational things, more everyday types of items that we need to continue to function.
Any further discussion by council on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 6 is consideration and approval of the 4th of July parade. And Ms. Leslie Miller, if you would please. How are you, Leslie?
I'm good. How is everyone?
Very well, thank you. And please bring this to us this year.
I appreciate the opportunity to come and address you this evening. Since 1939, the Jasper Lions Club has put on the festivities for the 4th of July weekend or holiday each year. So basically, we're just coming to you again asking for permission to have the parade. It will be held on July the 4th at 1 p.m. And I would invite you all to come and participate. free of charge, even though you see that it's, there is a charge for it in the paper. But you guys, you're welcome to come and join us and have a vehicle in the parade or walk in the parade, whichever you choose. So basically, I'm here to ask again that we get your approval for the 4th of July parade.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing that day.
Okay, so the rides will be coming in the week prior to 4th of July.
Same place as usual,
Yes, down
right?
at Newton Park, and well, the park and ride portion. And I think they're planning to come, they were planning to open on June the 30th, but I think now they're planning to open on the 29th, on Wednesday. They'll only be open in the evenings leading up to the 4th. They'll open earlier on the 4th. And the reason for the delay in the time of the parade, traditionally we've had it at 10 a.m., but the ride company was not opening the rides until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is an effort to keep to have less time between the end of the parade and the opening of the rides to draw the crowd on down to the park.
Okay.
So we'll have the parade at 1 on the 4th. We are working on some entertainment that perhaps will come in on Saturday night or Sunday night prior. We're not sure about that, but we'll be down at the park only. Just some local bands and local groups that want to sing. We're not certain about that yet, but we have put out an invitation to a couple of folks and waiting on a confirmation. So on the 4th, we have the parade at 1, followed by an afternoon of entertainment on the stage, and a band that will play that night, fireworks, followed by the fireworks at 10 p.m.
Fireworks at 10. Now, one year there was I'm bringing this up so that everyone will be in the loop, something about the Shriners were going to do cars. Are we approving this? I want to make sure everybody understands what we're approving.
Well, I wanted to bring that up, and I think because I'm anticipating, based on a request I had for an application a few days ago, that is going to come up again. I think the purpose here is first to approve the parade, and then approve whether or not we're going to allow those little spinny cars in the parade. Now, I'm not sure if it's the Shriners or if it's another group that has those small cars or not, but a person who requested an application last year, and they were told that no, you couldn't bring those little cars, has already requested an application this year, over the weekend. They did. So I have not responded, other than I would send them an application once it became ready, and I just haven't sent it yet, pending the approval here.
Council, this would perhaps present a problem to us, because we're not going to be meeting again until the 11th of July. So at this point, if we approve this without the approval for the cars, then I don't know exactly when you would get back to council for that approval, if they did request.
Mayor, if I may, if council would feel comfortable, the Public Safety Committee could meet with chiefs, city manager, and the presenters of the parade to determine what may or may not be appropriate, and just make a recommendation to the city manager if we allow the city manager to sign off on that particular applicant at that time.
Because we did discuss about making sure that they had insurance and that kind of
Yes.
stuff, so.
And I think that they do,
Most, yeah, I think.
I mean, most groups,
They do, but that was
they
one of
have
our
those,
concerns, but I think that's.
they would
something
protect
that-
themselves as well as anyone that
Absolutely.
they're performing in front of, so. So I think the purpose of this was to approve the parade. And then, once we receive an application, if there is additional approval needed, then we can address it at that time, if that group does indeed follow through and bring an application.
So council, what's your pleasure? I see nothing wrong with us approving the parade, and then any additions to that parade would have to come back to your committee for approval.
The only comment I'd make, Mayor, is I believe we moved the meeting in July to July 11th.
Correct.
Which is after, of course, the 4th.
Yeah.
So you might end up having to have a special call meeting to approve Shriner cars or whatever. Just so y'all, wanted y'all. to think.
That was my point also, Dave.
And I'm making a lot of assumptions as well. I know that this person is the one who approached me last year. I'm not really in charge, I'm not the president or anything, but I am here representing the club. And I think as far as we're concerned, it's not that we don't want this group here, and we're, again, making an assumption that this person is applying for that same group from last year.
And they came in front of us last year and that was discussed. It was kind of a timing issue last year.
Right.
So I think Kirk has a good valid point about approving the parade and then allowing our city manager and the committee to make that based on what it is.
If we get that, she may have a completely different group that she's planning to bring. So that's why I don't really want to get in too much to who it was and all until we know what she's actually applying for.
Correct.
Make a motion, we approve the parade
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the parade as presented. Any further questions by council, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions, and just because I'm going to dart out, I will be in contact with you about some specifics about the 4th, as far as some needs that we will have. And all. First of all, I would say lock those restrooms up in the woods, because we are going to rent some porta potties and have down there, so we for sure don't want that down there. And I do appreciate Tara and her calling me and saying, I hadn't heard from you, so tell me, are we doing this? We get so, it's like such a habit to us now that we just sort of start doing it. But yeah, we're going to rent the porta potties, and we don't need those restrooms up the hill in the woods. So
We can,
We'll be glad you said that.
we can fine tune the operational offline, so we can take care of that.
And just to make sure there's power at the grandstand there in front of the courthouse and on the stage as well down at the park. So,
Okay, we'll work through that.
okay. And if there are any questions, feel free to contact me. If there's something I can answer, I will. If I can't, I will find someone who can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Committee reports, development committee. Councilmember Redfield, Councilmember Proctor.
Update on the ordinance revision, that is in Mr. Siphon's hands, and would anticipate his opinion coming forth. I think we've had some discussions about our upcoming moratorium, and I think that will be addressed in their meeting. And other than that, we just continue to stay busy and continue to have people approach us about exciting endeavors. So, obviously, this has overlapped some of our issues with water and waste, and I'll cover those in that meeting. So, thanks, sir.
Councilmember Redfield. Yes, sir. Street and Parks Committee.
We had a public forum a few weeks ago, got some good input on Doris Weed, and looks like it's all coming together. I appreciate all the work that Kim's putting in. She's really done a wonderful job. We're going forward. We just ask everybody to be patient with us because we want to do it right. We want to make sure what we build is what Jasper is.
Thank you.
Administration Committee, Jim Lee and Ann Snavy, please.
Committee met on June 1st. We did discuss the purchasing policy. I appreciate council's action on that. Also, the cancer policy, COVID policy that we took off the agenda for tonight was discussed. And we're still working with the college on CDL training for our employees. I'm trying to make sure that the college and the city both understand the needs of each other. And I'll be able to report on that a little bit later.
Thank you, sir. Water Wastewater Committee, council members Proctor and Councilmember Fowler.
Well, we got a lot going on, obviously. Our wastewater plant is 2.5 times what we anticipated, and we're just facing those challenges as they come along. I will say that it's exciting for this finally coming together. Been waiting for it for a long time. I think on the positive side on water, we continue to work with EPD to resolve our consent order issues. And also, the committee has revisited exploring all opportunities for water sources, including some that are a little bit out of the box, but not far enough along to start talking about now. So, feel very comfortable with the relationship we built with EPD, and I think that moving forward will be an important relationship to maintain. So. That's all, sir.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Council Members Radfield and Mr. Lenny.
Mac, congratulations on your assistant chief. I've heard a lot of good comments. And on the addition to the fire department, there was some plans released today that I know Chief Scher is looking at, and we expect to be able to be moving on that fairly quickly.
Councilmember Radfield.
I'm good, thank you.
Financial report, Mr. Lindsay Williams. Looks like you've been really busy this week.
Yeah. For a few weeks,
Mayor and Council, so you'll find in your packets the financial report for the month of May. All of our departments are running under budget. We should be around 42%. Most of them running in the low 30s, so that's really good. We're excited about that. You have your bank account analysis in there and your budget comparison. If you have any questions on specific departments or how they're running on their expenditures. There's also your SPLOST balance. You have your 2020 and your 2014 that is located in your packet. We are spending a little bit out of 2014 now, doing some little repairs and things like that. But as far as SPLOST goes, they're doing good. The budget report is in there for more detail. If y'all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm excited that our 2020 audit came out very well, so that it's completed. Do you have any questions before we know?
Questions, anyone?
good job. We appreciate all your help with that, because you did a great job.
Appreciate you stepping up.
Thank you.
Fire report. Chief John Sheriff.
Good evening, everyone. You should have our report with our run numbers in it, so I'm not going to go over those unless you have any particular questions about them. I do want to mention that we just completed that promotion process for our lieutenant position we had open. I should have him here before you at the next meeting. Also, we finalized a promotion process that we'll use throughout the department for any open positions as far as internal candidates go. External will still follow with Ms. Johnson's HR policies. This was also approved by Ms. Johnson and Ms. Sonia, our city manager. That'll make sure we're doing stuff in a set forth process that's fair, equitable, and ensure we get the best candidates. We're also, coming up this weekend, we're going to have an engine at Lee Newton Park for Good Samaritan community event. And then next Thursday at 10 a.m. we'll be back at Lee Newton Park for a superhero day, and that's put on by Prevent Child Abuse Pickets. As Councilman Looney mentioned, we do have the plans back. They're 90% complete. It's not quite all of them. We've been looking over them. We've identified one or two minor issues that will have to be corrected, but that's what this process is for. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you for the job.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Good
Chief.
job, thank you.
Development Report, Mr. Lonnie Waters. Where are you, Lonnie? I couldn't see you hiding over there.
Thank you, Mayor. In the development department, building department, we've issued 36 permits, 24 new residential, 9 renovations, 3 commercial, and 5 sign permits, 179 on-site inspections, 18 soil erosion inspections, 9 animal calls, and 2 new business licenses. And the project that was going in across from the duck pond on Navajo and Indian Forest, that area, we had issued a stop work order on that a little while back because the silt screening and the preparation wasn't where it should have been. I have released some partial rights to go in there to a new contractor to redo the silt screen and remove the brush. And then they will come back to me and talk about start removing the dirt and doing the grading. But no grading is going to start until everything's in order.
In our police report, something else.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Y'all have the, I guess, our statistics for the month of May. Didn't change much from April, still up pretty high. About 900 calls service. And it'll probably be up a little higher this month. Summertime, more people out, more crime. Also, we did, 2 officers went last week over to Country Kids and showed off one of the Explorers, and they got to climb in there and play the lights a little bit. And, we didn't have any crazy questions asked. That was nice. It's one that we do. We will also be attending this weekend down at Leases Park with the Good Samaritan, and I believe they got in touch with us regarding the superhero. Other than that, I will say this: I do believe, I don't hold me to it. In the next week, I think, Tanya, right? Maybe next week, all Tahoes will be ready to be on the road. Can I believe that?
Well, a nice way to police department when they're riding around.
Yes. I will give y'all a sneak peek. Y'all can pass this around. It's not been approved yet, but just so y'all know, I told y'all I was looking at changing the patch. Just a little sneak peek where we're at. I think I've showed it to the officers. The officers are really happy with it. So we'll go from there. I'll bring it to the next Public Safety Committee and we'll go further with it.
That'll be soon.
Real soon.
It was good to see the officers here for swearing in and the assistant too.
I appreciate that.
That was good.
Very nice. Got any questions?
Council's questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank y'all.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into executive session at this point in time. Council, I would become a motion to
Move we go into executive session.
second. All in favor?
Make a motion, we open
regular session.
Second.
Motion and a second, open regular session, all in favor?
Aye.
We are open.
Okay, Mayor, members of City Council, you have before you a fee schedule for our Jasper Municipal Court. I would like for you to entertain approving this fee schedule so that we can start collecting court fees, discovery and open records request fees, and continue the fingerprinting background investigation fees.
Entertain a motion to adopt the fee schedule as presented.
So moved.
And second. All in favor? Opposed?